and CO minus NH3. So how can glycine be formed? Okay. So serine with the help of hydroxymethyl transferase. So what is the difference between serine and glycine? If you see this diagram, the difference is in this methyl, this particular extra carbon and hydroxyl. So this is lost. So this enzyme is serine hydroxymethyl transferase. So where is this given to? This is given to tetrahydroxyfolic acid. Okay. So this is how glycine is found. Number 2, threonine. From threonine with the help of aldolase, it loses its aldolase group. So that it forms the simplest amino acid glycine. So glycine, it undergoes glycine cleavage system. So how is glycine metabolized? It undergoes decarboxylation with the help of enzyme glycine decarboxylase. The coenzyme is 5-hydroxyl phosphate. So in most of the decarboxylation reactions, you can see biotin. Here, one more extra is 5-hydroxyl phosphate. So CO2 is lost. Then what will be left? Amino methyl group is left. Then tetrahydrofolic acid, it takes the methyl. Okay, methyl. Then if methyl is lost, what will be left? Amino is left. This ammonia is lost. Okay. So this is glycine cleavage system. Glycine undergoes breakdown to lose its ammonia group in the form of ammonia, and methyl is transferred to THFA. So this is a glycine cleavage system. It's a multi-enzyme complex. In the previous diagram you have seen multi-enzyme complex means anything which contains lot of enzymes. It's there in the name itself. So example is glycine decarboxylase, where PLP is the coenzyme. Amino methyl transferase, you have seen. Methylene THFA synthase and lipamide dehydrogenase. So multi-enzyme complex is something where there are many enzymes. Glycine decarboxylase, amino methyl transferase, methylene THFA synthase, and lipamide dehydrogenase. Okay, all of you try to remember this. What is a multi-enzyme complex and what are the components of it? And what happens to serine? This serine, it undergoes, the previous class you have seen, transamination, trans-deamination. Okay, all those reactions occur and finally you can see that ammonia is lost and serine is converted to pyruvate, and this pyruvate enters into different cycles. Okay, serine hydroxymethyl transferase. So this is again a repetition. Serine is converted to glycine with the help of serine hydroxymethyl transferase. So overview the glycine metabolism. So here what is to be learned is glycine is the simplest amino acid which can be synthesized from the threonine aldolase, serine by methyl transferase, and different proteins when they break down in our body we get the glycine. If it is supposed to be synthesized, so it's a 1 carbon, ammonia, carbon dioxide, all of this can give glycine. So once you break down the glycine cleavage system, you have seen ammonia is found and carbon unit. The ammonia goes to the urea. So we have seen the urea cycle, what happens to ammonia and all that. Serine, what happens to serine? It mostly goes into pyruvate and that goes into gluconeogenesis for the formation of glucose. Glycoxylate. Glycine is going for the formation of creatine. With the help of creatine phosphate, finally creatinine is formed. Glycine is taken up for the C4, C5 and 7 of the purine ring. Okay. It's also involved in the ALA formation. If you remember the heme synthesis, amino levulinic acid. So glycine plus succinyl-CoA, they combine to form the ALA. So that is the step, and finally glycine is going for the heme synthesis. Glycine is also used in the synthesis of glutathione. Glutathione is involved in the antioxidant system in our body. Okay. So glycine is also involved in the formation of bile salts. So what are the bile acids? Cholic acid, D-cholic acid. So once it combines with glycine, it forms glycocolate. So that is a bile salt, sodium glycocolate. Okay. Glycine is also used in the conjugation Like for the excretion of hippuric acid, when hippuric acid is present in our body, it has to be excreted. For that, it undergoes conjugation. Glycine combines with hippuric acid and helps in its excretion. So this is the overview of glycine metabolism. So glycine is the simplest amino acid, how it is formed and what are its products. So this is the same thing. It's a glucogenic. It is a glucogenic. Glycine is involved in the synthesis of glucose in our body. Now glycine, how is it forming creatine? Glycine combines, it's undergoing that transamination reaction. Okay, glycine, arginine, both of them undergo a reaction. The enzyme name glycine arginine amidotransferase. The amido group is being transferred to glycine, guanidine acetic acid, and ornithine. Okay, so glycine and arginine, they undergo this amidotransferase. You can see them. This is being transferred. Okay, so that you get finally guanidine acetic acid and ornithine. Okay, second reaction occurs. SAM, S-adenosyl-methionine. Okay, it comes and along with the guanidine acetate methyl transferase, you get creatine. So what we are supposed to memorize is glycine. What we want finally is it's forming creatine. And what is the other important molecule is SAM, S-adenosyl-methionine. What is SAH? S-adenosyl homocysteine. The difference between these two is a methyl group. Okay, methionine and homocysteine. The difference is in a methyl group. You can see the methyl group is transferred. The methyl group is transferred to guanidoacetic acid. So this is the guanidoacetic acid. You can see. So this SAM is a methyl transfer. Always remember. So this is a methylation, transmethylation reaction. Transmethylation means transfer of a methyl group. The SAM, it is always a methyl donor. So it's donating its methyl group to guanidoacetic acid, so that finally you have the creatine. So this is the creatine. S-adenosyl-methionine donates its methyl group to form S-adenosyl homocysteine. So finally what is we are getting? Creatine. So glycine is giving creatine. Then creatine undergoes reactions to form creatinine. You can see here. So this is the creatine. ATP, one energy, one phosphate is lost. You can see here. Triphosphate is becoming diphosphate. So creatine kinase. Okay. So as it's a phosphorus transfer, it is known as kinase. Okay. And its ATP is converted to ADP. One phosphate is coming. You can see this diagram clearly. So this is creatine. So where is this phosphate coming and attaching? You can see in the here. Yes. PO3 minus. So here a phosphate group is attached. Then creatine becomes creatine phosphate. Here, without the help of any enzyme, spontaneously creatine phosphate is broken down. It loses this phosphate and a water molecule to form creatinine. You can see what happens. This phosphate, okay, it's lost. This P and H2O. Okay, this H2O is lost here and a bond is formed. So give what? Creatine. So creatine is formed from glycine. Okay, glycine, arginine, and methionine. So you have this MCQ. Which amino acids are involved in the synthesis of creatine? Glycine, arginine, and methionine. Now let us come to creatine kinase. So we have seen what is creatine kinase. You have seen creatine is formed, then ATP, AMP. In this reaction, the enzyme involved is creatine kinase. So creatine phosphate, and this is spontaneously broken down to give, okay, creatine. Okay, let's go with creatine. So this is a creatine kinase is a special enzyme where it has. So all of you have, if the enzymes chapter is completed, you know, it is made up of two units, B and M. Okay, B is brain and M is muscle. So if it's made up of two muscle units, okay, it is found in the muscle. It is found in M. If it is made up of two B units, it is found in the brain. If one M and one B, it is present in the heart. So creatine kinase isoforms. Okay, creatine kinase isoforms. A very potential question for the exam. Creatine kinase isoforms. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is found in the muscle having two M units. It is increased whenever there is a muscular dystrophy. is a disease, okay, a muscular dystrophy, the defect in the genetic level, okay. What happens? The muscle is easily broken down. The patient presents with muscular weakness, okay. So coming to brain, this is BB. We have 2 units of B. Heart. In heart, this is what the cardiologists are interested in. Whenever there is a heart attack, that is myocardial infarction, what happens is this particular protein enzyme is very much activated. This is known as CKMB, creatine kinase. Then we put this, okay, CKMB. These levels are very much elevated. Okay? So, creatine kinase, isoforms are 3. Muscular dystrophy is a disease where this is elevated, and myocardial infarction is a disease, that is heart attack, where the CKMB component is very much elevated. In creatine phosphate, what is formed in the muscle, it's a very high energy molecule. Creatine phosphate is a molecule which is having a high energy, and this is used by the body. Okay? This is used by the muscle when it's doing its work. You can see here. It says energy storage. Now, whenever the muscle needs energy, it uses this phosphate so that ATP can be produced. Okay? So, it is a storage form of energy in the muscle. Whenever it needs energy, the phosphate is transferred to AMP so that ATP is found. Creatine, urinary creatine excretion, normally every day in our 24 hours, okay, it is very negligibly excreted. But it is where the importance lies as a doctor, where you have to find is, whenever you see a muscle dystrophy patient, or whenever you see a muscle injuries, okay, or road traffic accident, the person has some muscle injuries. In those conditions, if you measure the creatine levels, you'll find that they are elevated. It is 0.2 to 0.4. Okay? The normal levels in our serum, if you just happen to estimate the creatine level, it is 0.2 to 0.4 milligrams per deciliter. But whereas the importance is, whenever a person of muscular dystrophy disease presents to us, when you estimate the creatine in him, the values will be high. Okay, so that is the importance. Okay, coming to creatinine. So creatinine is something involved in the renal failure. Okay, so creatine. So all of you please try to follow. Creatine is something which is elevated, or we are concerned in the muscle disorders. Whereas creatinine is something, it is formed from creatine. It is elevated in the kidney failure. What happens is the kidney usually excretes a 24 hours creatinine. Okay, this is the serum creatinine, 0.7 to 1.4 milligrams per deciliter. That is for male. In female, it is 0.6 to 1.3 milligrams per deciliter. This difference is small differences because of the increased muscle mass in the males. So this is the normal serum creatinine. Okay, always remember 0.7 to 1.4 mg per deciliter. Okay? Now these levels are usually elevated in renal failure. What happens is the kidney, whenever it is not functioning properly, it is not able to excrete the products, the waste products in the body. So what is the marker we use to measure the kidney function is creatinine. Okay, we want to measure the kidney function, then what you use? Serum creatinine. Okay, the serum level usually parallels to severity of the disease. What this means is, this is the normal level, 0.7 to 1.4 mg per deciliter. So whenever the kidney is not functioning, what happens? The levels increase to 2.5, 3, like that. If the disease is very much progressed, then you get values around 10, 15. In extremely, the last stage of renal failure, there are 5 stages. The last stage is stage 5, which is known as end-stage renal disease. The creatinine will be around 15, 20, okay, 17, 18, 20, like that. So it depends on, the serum level usually parallels the severity of the disease, okay. That's it. So it's a better indicator than the blood urea, definitely. Okay. The more important, blood urea is giving an index, but creatinine is considered as a much better index of estimating the renal failure. Okay. Creatinine levels here, what is the point to remember is, all of us know that even one kidney is enough for us to maintain the normal physiology. Only when 50% of the kidneys stop functioning, Okay, then the values increase. Alright, whenever you should always remember that if the values are increasing 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, it indicates that one of the kidney is not working normally. Okay, you will get the much more details when you read your pathology. Okay, just in the first year, just what you have to remember is creatinine levels. So anybody asks you what is the blood test to be done to know whether the kidneys are functioning or not is, it is serum creatinine. Muscle dystrophy is serum creatinine. I hope it's clear. And in the clinical practice, we are doing this creatinine clearance test. Okay, this is a test for the GFR. All of you might be knowing about the kidney physiology. In that, to test the GFR, we are doing the creatinine clearance test. So how much is the GFR? It's around 125 ml per minute. Okay. So if you want to do that, what as a biochemist what to do is we use the creatinine to estimate the GFR. So creatinine production, it occurs every day. It occurs spontaneously, it is continuous, and no fluctuation depends on the muscle mass. Suppose now you take any patient, his values of creatinine will be a constant value every day. It will be around 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 or 0.7 again, like that. It will be maintained. Okay. It is constant for a particular person. It will be like 0.6, 0.7, 0.6, 0.7 like that. Okay. Suppose it increases to 1.5, then we think that something is wrong. Okay, the kidney is at fault. So for the estimation in the clinical side, what you have to do is you have to take the 24 hours urine sample, and then after taking the urine sample, we estimate the creatinine. Okay. So this is how creatinine is useful. So creatinine, why we are learning all this is glycine metabolism. What is the important products found are creatinine. Okay. This is on the application aspect. What is the importance of learning about all this is with regards to the renal diseases. Just a summary, the glycine and arginine, they combine, the reaction occurs in the kidney, then methyltransferase reaction occurs in the liver, so that we have creatine. Creatine kinase, muscle, okay. Creatine, all of you know creatine phosphate is stored in the muscle, and spontaneously, when this creatine phosphate is broken down and creatine is produced. This also occurs in the muscle. This, from here to here, it is in the muscle. Creatine to creatinine, okay. So clinical, just summary of what we have learned till now. Very important to remember as a first year student, the normal serum creatinine level is 0.7 to 1.4 mg per deciliter. Okay. Creatinine level is okay, you need not memorize it, but creatinine is compulsory. It's an indicator of renal function. Okay, creatinine level. As the kidney function is getting low, the blood creatinine level will increase. Okay. So coming to muscular dystrophies, creatine level will be elevated, right? Apart from the muscular dystrophies, reduced muscle mass is also the cause of low creatinine. There are some cases where there is creatinine will be low, like low muscle mass in the women, okay, older age, in old age where there is no more muscle mass, okay, where the older population lose the muscle, you can expect a low creatinine level. Bedridden state because of lack of proper diet, okay, and low protein diet, right? So, right. So the enzyme creatine kinase. Now let us come to it. It's an isoenzyme. It's isoenzyme found in the cardiac isoenzyme CKMB. So creatine kinase, what are these isoenzymes? One is CKMM, is found in the muscle. CKBB, which is found in the brain, and CKMB, which is found in the heart, and that's what we are much more concerned, that whenever there is a heart attack, we, along with troponins, you heard about troponins, so along with troponin, we also go for estimation of CKMB. Troponins have got much importance than CKMB. So the spontaneous loss of creatine, okay, and the phosphocreatine to creatinine requires that creatine is spontaneously replaced. So creatine has to be synthesized so that creatinine can be formed. Okay. Creatine synthesis makes major demands on the metabolism of glycine, arginine, methionine. So this is a very important MCQ question. So creatine is found from which amino acid? Glycine, arginine, methionine. All of you remember, okay? Remember it as MAG, okay? Right? Or GAME, you can also remember like this. Glycine, arginine, and methionine, right? Children with inborn errors of creatine synthesis or transport, they present with neurological symptoms and depletion of the brain creatine. Okay? So any child who is having an inborn error means the child is born with that error. Yeah? Means they are having the enzyme deficiency. They are having deficiency somewhere, amidotransferase or methyltransferase. Okay? Because of which they are not able to synthesize creatine. Okay? Then what happens? They are presenting with neurological symptoms. Okay, so it's a very important molecule. Right. Special metabolic functions. So in glycine metabolic reactions you have seen creatine and creatine till now. What are the other things? As I already told you, heme, ALA is required. Creatine, okay, fine. Purine nucleotides. Always remember, it is required for purine. In MCQ question, you get a, is it purine, is it pyrimidine, like that. Okay, they'll give you like that. Glutathione, okay, used as a conjugating agent. We'll see just one line about all this. So it's conjugated bile acids, glycine, right? So glycine, so these are the bile acids, isn't it? Cholic acid and chenodeoxycholic acid. These are the bile acids, right? So from where they are synthesized? They are synthesized from the cholesterol in the liver. Okay. Then these bile acids, when glycine combines with them, they form glycocholic acid and glycocenodeoxycholic acid. What is the other function is? Glycine combines with benzoic acid to form hippuric acid and it is excreted in urine. Glycine helps in the excretion of the benzoic acid in the body. Fine. Glycine helps in the excretion of benzoic acid. It combines and forms hippuric acid. And once it is conjugated, it becomes water soluble and it is excreted. And glycine is also a neurotransmitter. Here, what is to be remembered is when it is in a moderate level, okay, it is acting as a negative. It is acting as a depression. Okay? It is an inhibitory neurotransmitter when it's in a low levels or moderate levels. But when it's at a high levels, it causes overexcitation. It acts as a positive neurotransmitter. So glycine is a special neurotransmitter where when it is at the lower levels, it's acting as a neuroinhibitor. But very high level, it becomes a neurostimulatory. Fine? It's a constituent of protein. In collagen. So collagen is a very important molecule, very important protein we have to learn. So glycine is present as every third amino acid in collagen. Okay? It helps in the bends and turns. Okay? So I hope we have gone through all the things of glycine. Just a single liners again. Glycine combines with succinyl-CoA with ALA synthesis to form ALA. That is amino levulinic acid, and several reactions occur and we have the heme. Coming to disorders. Here the disorders are not, there are some disorders. We have seen the glycine cleavage system. Whenever there is a defect in the glycine cleavage, what will happen? The glycine will increase in the blood. Okay, glycine is not able to get broken down into ammonia and carbon dioxide. So what will happen? It will simply be elevated. It causes hyperglycemia. So all of you know, whenever there is excess of any molecule, it is known as hyperglycemia. Anemia means in the blood or plasma. Okay? It is not causing any ketosis. Okay, like the diabetic ketoacidosis, ketone bodies being excessive, nothing like that. Okay, so like all of you are able to follow. It's a non-ketotic, just simple hyperglycemia. Okay, so the levels of increase in blood, urine, and CSF. It leads to, so what happens to the child? Yes, the child presents with severe mental retardation and seizures, and we don't have any particular effective management. We have to find the things how glycine can be removed from the diet. That's the only thing we can do. Okay. So non-ketotic hyperglycemia, defect in the glycine cleavage system. Now coming to another defect, that is oxaluria. Okay. What happens is generally the alanine glyoxylate. So what simply to remember is there is excess of oxalate. Okay. Excess of oxalate in this condition. Okay. So glycine It undergoes finally converted to glyoxylic acid. Fine. Leafy vegetables, all of you know the spinach, okay, vitamin C, ascorbic acid. What is being taken in this COVID era, lot of vitamin C and ascorbic acid, okay, and the leafy spinach, okay, all that contains lot of oxalic acid. So the person has lot of oxalic acid, so it is being advised to take lot of water. Anybody affected with COVID taking lot of vitamin C, we are advising them to take lot of water. Why? Because to prevent the oxalic acid accumulation. Why? Lot of oxalic acid accumulation leads to oxalate stones in the kidney. Okay, that will be another problem. So anybody taking lot of vitamin C, please take lot of water. And leafy vegetables, whenever taking lot of leafy vegetables in the diet, we should take lot of water so that oxalic acid which is formed is easily excreted in the urine. Okay, so this slide, what it is showing is glycine, its product is oxalic acid. Okay, now coming to primary oxaluria. So this is defect in the protein targeting defect. Okay, so generally what happens is this enzyme is actually found in the peroxisomes, but in this defect, primary oxaluria, this enzyme is found in the mitochondria. So what happens? The glyoxylic acid which is formed, it is not getting broken down, leads to lot of oxalic acid accumulation, leads to oxalic stones. Nephrolithiasis means stone in the kidney. Colic means pain, renal pain, and this stone causes irritation in the ureter leading to bleeding. Okay, so this is primary oxaluria. So glycine metabolism, when we are learning about it, what we know is this glycine, when it gets broken down, okay, it's getting oxalic acid. Usually it is supposed to be excreted, but in this disease where there is a primary oxaluria, where the enzyme is not, which was supposed to be present in the peroxisome, is found in the mitochondria. What happens? It's not able to break the glyoxylate. Oxalic acid accumulates, stones form, the renal pain. This particular person is present with renal pain, stones and bleeding in the urine. Fine. That is primary. Now coming to type 2, where there is milder condition, is much better than the primary one. It is also presenting with urolithiasis. Urolithiasis means stone in the urinary system. Fine. There is some deficiency in the some activity reductase. Okay, so what you do, just it's not that it's present in the mitochondria like that. It is present in the cytoplasm, but the activity is low. So what happens? The what's the management? Oxalic acid is present, so please give lot of water so that the oxalic acid is excreted in the urine, and minimize the dietary. So whenever you have the stone issue of the kidney, most of the stones, there are many types of stones like phosphate stones, uric acid stones, calcium stones, oxalate stones. Okay. Now here we are learning about oxalate. So whenever there is an oxalate stone, please restrict the diet of leafy vegetables. No leafy vegetables in that particular person. Okay. Tea, cocoa. Okay. They're eating lot of chocolates. Okay. Beetroot and spinach. You know, spinach is a leafy vegetable containing lot of oxalic acid. So please avoid these. Okay. Then the person will easily recover. So what you have to remember? Tea, the chocolate, okay, leafy vegetables, beetroot. These things contain lot of oxalic acid. So try to avoid this whenever there is a stone, kidney stone. Now coming to serine, okay. Just few points about serine. Phosphoglycerate. And you know the glycine, we have seen already, no? Serine hydroxymethyl transferase. This reaction is reversible. It can also be formed from pyrene, okay, hydroxypyruvate. It's the same thing. So we have completed glycine. Alright? And we are going for serine. 3-phosphoglycerate. Right? Formed in the glycolysis. 3-phosphoglycerate. It can be converted to pyruvate and finally getting serine. Fine? Catabolism. Once serine is formed, what are the products? It can get deaminated to form pyruvate. Just remember that serine or glycine, both of them are glucogenic. Serine and glycine, when you are reading, when we are learning both of them together, it will be easy for us. Serine and glycine, both of them are glycogenic, both of them are converted to pyruvate. Okay? Two lines, if you remember. it will help us. Serine and glycine, both of them are glucogenic, both of them get converted to pyruvate. Okay. What are the special reactions is, whenever serine is undergoing decarboxylation, it is giving ethanolamine. Ethanolamine is, it's a nitrogen. You can see here, no? It's containing nitrogenous base. So this ethanolamine goes and combines with phosphate. You know, there's a this ethanolamine goes and combines its phosphate group to form phosphoproteins. If you remember phospholipids, yes, phospholipids in the lipid chemistry. What are those? Cephalins, phospholecithin, phosphoethanolamine, phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylserine, okay? So just remember that whenever CO2 is lost, what is the compound formed? Ethanolamine. How easy to remember is 2 carbons, no? 2 carbons with OH. It is ethanol. Okay, ethanol. You are adding NH2, it becomes ethanolamine. All of you know, no? Ethanol, the alcohol. 2 carbons with OH. It is ethanol. If you add ammonia, it will become NH, ethanolamine, right? So serine is decarboxylated ethanolamine. Choline is used for the HCl synthesis, right? So choline is one of the important 1-carbon donors. So all of you have seen your textbooks, we are having a special chapter called as 1-carbon metabolism, right? It's important. 1-carbon metabolism means having only single CH3, 1 carbon. So what is this 1-carbon metabolism is? One methyl group transferring here and there to give different molecules. Like we have seen today, serine, glycine, that methylene THFA, tetrahydrofolic acid, all those reactions, they are come under single 1-carbon metabolism. 1-carbon metabolism. Come on. Serine is a component of protein. Okay, it's involved in phosphate of like casein in the formation of glycoprotein, trypsin, and coagulation factors. Okay, it's in. So you might have heard about threonine kinases, serine kinases. So serine, okay, like what is its role in the human body? Okay, it is involved in the formation of serine and threonine kinases. It's involved in the glycoprotein formation. It's involved in trypsin and coagulation factors. Okay. All this you have to read many times to remember. So glycine, serine, choline cycle. Okay. So glycine. Okay, it is getting converted to serine. Serine loses its CO2. We have seen no decarboxylation to find ethanolamine. One minute. Ethanolamine, okay, glycine, serine, ethanolamine. Then again a methyl group is called, you get a methanethylamine. Another methyl group, you get a dimethyl ethylamine. You can see, no? Dimethyl. So this is, and again enter is added. Finally you get choline. So what is choline? So ethanamine, add 1, you get methyl, again you add 1, again you add. So when you add 3 methyl groups, okay? When you add 3 methyl groups to ethanolamine, you get a choline, okay? And it is getting converted to betaine, and again again this cycle repeats so that glycine is formed. So what we want from this, what we learn from this table is glycine and serine are formed interconvertible. Okay, from serine you have ethanolamine, and from ethanolamine we can form choline, and again from choline we can synthesize glycine. This is known as 1-carbon pool. Why? Because all the reactions occur and they are giving 1 carbons. Okay, these are 1-carbon molecules. Methyl CH3. CH2OH is also a 1-carbon, okay? COOH is also a 1-carbon group. So all these are known as 1-carbon pool. So when you see this diagram, just glycine, serine, okay? Ethanolamine, choline. Again from choline, we are getting glycine, okay? Now let us come to the 21st. So all of us, when we are reading amino acid chemistry, all of us know that there are 20 generally, okay, 20 amino acid. Later they found that there's another 21st amino acid also. Okay, there's actually 22nd also. Okay, so for today let us see 21st. In this selenocysteine, okay, is the 21st amino acid. Okay, then it is, you can see selenium. Selenium is used here. So what are the other reactions? Okay, it is involved in thioredox reductase, glutathione peroxidase, okay, deiodinase, okay, involved in the T4 T3 conversion. Okay, it removes one of the iodine from T4 so that you get T3. In T4 there are 4 iodines and T3 there are 3 iodines. Okay, this particular deiodinase, it's in the name deiodinase. It's removing one iodine from T4 so that we get T3. This particular enzyme contains selenocysteine. Okay, glutathione peroxidase involved in this peroxidation system. It also contains selenocysteine. Okay, thioredox reductase, selenoprotein C. It is found in the mammalian blood. Okay, so just to mention that they ask about 2 marks, right, about selenocysteine. So it's a 21st amino acid. It's involved in these enzymes. Please try to memorize. Just remember this thyroxine much easy to deiodinase, glutathione peroxidase. MCQ can be deiodinase contains which amino acid? Okay, deiodinase contains which amino acid? Does it contain arginine, glycine, methionine, or selenocysteine? So these type of questions can be asked. So deiodinase contains selenocysteine. Okay, even this is also important in the thioredoxin reductase. Okay. So this is the serine metabolism. Serine synthesis from glycine, alanine, phosphoglycerine. What are the products? Glycine 1 carbon. So we have seen pyruvate, ethanolamine, choline, phosphatidylserine. Other molecules are sphingosine and selenocysteine. Serine amino acid is involved in the synthesis of selenocysteine. Okay. Let us go to alanine. Alanine is a non-essential. It's also a glucogenic. Like glycine and serine, it is also a glucogenic amino acid. Okay, and alanine we have seen a lot of times involved in the transamination reactions. The enzyme is alanine aminotransferase. Okay, pyruvate and glutamate they combine to form alanine and alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, the reaction requires PLP. Okay, this is a transamination reaction. Okay, so this is this concept of transamination reaction which we are always expecting for a 4-mark question. So what is the transamination? It's transfer from amino group from one amino acid to between one amino acid, this is the amino acid and a keto acid, to form another amino acid and the keto acid. So one keto acid and one amino acid they combine so that we are getting one more group of amino acid, that's alanine and keto acid, alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, it always remains, the enzyme name is always aminotransferase. It requires a coenzyme that is pyridoxal phosphate. And clinical application, ALT is always, you always remember L for L. ALT is always increased in the liver disease. Okay, when you get a question in an MCQ like which enzyme is elevated, ALT or AST, ALT is more specific for liver disease. Okay, right. It is a major form of transport of nitrogen. Okay, how the nitrogen transports, all that we have seen in the urea cycle. Beta-alanine is something special molecule. Here the amino group goes and attaches to the beta carbon. So all of us are learning about alpha carbon till now. Okay, the central carbon, C, NH3COOH, that is the alpha carbon. But here the special is amino group goes and attaches to the beta carbon. Okay, that is known as beta-alanine. It's majorly involved. So what we want is majorly for the coenzyme A. Okay, just remember beta-alanine means amino group is at the beta carbon. Coming to threonine, it's an essential amino acid, it's a glucogenic. Okay, right. What is important? Not expected in the exam mostly. Okay, fine. Threonine, just for the knowledge, it's a glucogenic amino acid. Okay. Methionine. Methionine is very important. It's expected essay. Okay. Sulfur containing essential. Okay, and glucogenic. We have to take it in our diet. We can't synthesize it in the body. It's a sulfur containing essential glucogenic amino acid. The degradation, once you break the methionine, we get cysteine. Okay, so all of you know cysteine and cysteine. Cysteine is EINE, okay? When you combine two cysteine molecules, you get cysteine, okay? Fine? So methionine is a sulfur containing, cysteine is also sulfur containing. Cysteine is, so it's not essential. Why? Because it can be synthesized from the methionine. All of you remember, methionine is essential. We need it in our body and it's a glucogenic. Now let's see. So this is methionine, okay? So methionine adenosine transferase, that is energy is being taken up. Then what we get as adenosine methionine. Okay, you can see the sulfur. Okay, S-adenosyl methionine. You can see the adenosyl compound comes and attaches to the sulfur. That's why this is known as S-adenosyl methionine. Then it has a special property to always transfer this methyl group. It always donates, tries to donate. Okay. Then what happens? This methyl is lost. Acceptor accepts the methyl, and finally what are left with? So you can see the methyl is lost here. Okay. The methyl is lost. Then what do you get? S-adenosyl homocysteine. So when you are removing a methyl group from the methionine, we are getting homocysteine. Okay. Now, if you remove adenosine, what you will get? Homocysteine. It's a very important reaction. Homocysteine converting to methionine. It requires vitamin B12. Always remember, all of you. Okay. It's a very important reaction. Homocysteine getting converted to methionine. It requires vitamin B12. So let us follow the whole thing again. We are taking methionine in our diet. What happens immediately? It takes the energy to get converted to S-adenosyl methionine. Why it is called S-adenosyl methionine? Because it contains sulfur. Okay. To this sulfur, what happens is adenosyl comes and attaches. Okay. S-adenosyl methionine. Now this methyl group is transferred. It has the property SAM is a potential 2-mark question. It is always trying to donate its methyl group. Then once it donates, it becomes homocysteine. Remove the SN adenosyl. Okay? Not S, sorry. Remove the adenosyl, you get the homocysteine. Homocysteine is also containing sulfur. Homocysteine also contains sulfur. Okay? Now with the help of vitamin B12, okay? Homocysteine methyl transferase, you add one methyl group to get methionine. So we are adding one methyl group. Then immediately we get. So what's the difference between homocysteine and methionine? Methionine contains methyl group. Homocysteine does not contain methyl group. All of you, yes, always remember that. Methionine always contains, it's in the name itself, a clue. It contains methyl. Homocysteine does not contain methyl. And this vitamin B12 is very important. If you don't have vitamin B12, we can't synthesize methionine in our body. From the homocysteine, it leads to many nervous disorders. Okay? Leads to many nerve disorders. We'll see in the future classes. Okay? Right. Now come on. Once you have homocysteine, it combines with serine to form cystathionine, and finally it is broken down to form homoserine and cysteine. Okay? So what happens in our body with the homocysteine? It goes for the synthesis of methionine. Okay? If you have enough of methionine, what happens? It combines with serine to form cystathionine. Okay? Cystathionine. It is finally broken down to give homoserine and cysteine. Cysteine is formed. Right? So, methionine, you have homocysteine. This from homocysteine we can synthesize cysteine. Right? Right. These are all the different reactions. So, methionine, S-adenosyl methionine, S-adenosyl homocysteine, cystathionine, cysteine, right? Then this propenyl CoA is formed, and actually this is showing how glucose is formed. We have seen that methionine is glucogenic, okay? Homocysteine, cystathionine, homoserine, again converted to propenyl CoA with the decarboxylation. Finally, many reaction occurs so that we get the glucose. So, conversion of methionine to cysteine. Methionine, so again the same repetition. Methionine, SAM, SAH, again homocysteine, methionine. Some amount of homocysteine converted to cystathionine and converted to cysteine. Okay, methionine can form cysteine in our body. This is very important. Okay, all of you, whenever you get a 2 marks question, always try to remember this. Okay, what happens? Methyl is gone to the acceptor. So once you lose the methionine, you get a SAH. Transmethylation reactions, expected 4 mark question. You did not remember all of them, okay? Just few of important things like difference between whenever you add a methyl to norepinephrine, it becomes epinephrine. Okay, like that. 1, 2 things. What we have learned today, ethanolamine. You add 3 methyls to ethanolamine, we get choline. Okay? Just remember like this. Ethanolamine. So transmethylation reactions when you're getting a 2 marks or 4 marks. So you understood the definition. Transmethylation means transfer of the methyl group. Okay? A methyl group is accepted when accepted to give a methylated product. What are the examples? Norepinephrine accepts a methyl group to form epinephrine. Okay, this is noradrenaline, adrenaline. Okay, all of you? Yes. Norepinephrine accepts one methyl group to form epinephrine. Ethanolamine accepts 3 methyl groups to form choline. Fine? Right. So now coming to a disease known as homocystinuria. Okay, homocystinuria. So in the previous slides you have seen that homocysteine, okay, combines with serine to give cystathionine. Once this reaction is stopped, because of the deficiency of this enzyme, all the homocysteine is accumulated in the body. This is known as homocystinuria. Right? Right. Okay. Homocystinuria. Okay, so this is a homocystinuria. All of you try to read this and learn the concept. Expected 2 marks or 4 marks question. Okay? Homocystinuria. So all of these are autosomal recessive.